to Alaska to serve his community. Chad served with distinction as a firefighter and paramedic with Capital Fire and Rescue in Juneau, rising through the ranks to captain and assistant chief and proudly completing the National Fire Academy's Executive Fire Officer program. In late 2020, Chad moved to Palmer, Alaska to serve as fire chief with Palmer Fire and Rescue, where he led with compassion, integrity, and vision, earning the respect and admiration of his department, fellow public servants, and the Palmer community. Chad was known for his ability to see the best in others and to help them grow into their full potential, while also being a devoted husband and father. That's okay. So I'm going to restart. Chad Cameron faithfully dedicated his life to public service, beginning his career in the fire service shortly after graduating from Kellogg High School in Idaho, serving with the Idaho Department of Lands, the U.S. Forest Service Fire, and as a volunteer firefighter with the Pinehurst and Kellogg Fire Departments. Chad continued his commitment to service while pursuing higher education, volunteering in the fire service during his studies at the University of Alaska Southeast, attending the Swedish Paramedic School in Denver, Colorado, and earning a bachelor's degree in marine biology before returning to Alaska to serve his community. Chad served with distinction as a firefighter and paramedic with Capital Fire and Rescue in Juneau, rising through the ranks to captain and assistant chief, and proudly completing the National Fire Academy's Executive Fire Officer program. In late 2020, Chad moved to Palmer, Alaska to serve as fire chief of Palmer Fire and Rescue, where he led with compassion, integrity, and vision, earning the respect and admiration of his department, fellow public servants, and the Palmer community. Chad was known for his ability to see the best in others and to help them grow into their full potential, while also being a devoted husband and father who cherished his family and gave generously of his time, heart, and energy. Chad Cameron passed away on December 9th after a courageous battle with brain cancer, leaving a lasting legacy of leadership, service, and kindness. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Mayor and Palmer City Council that the City of Palmer hereby honors and remembers Chad Cameron and expresses its deepest gratitude for his dedicated service and its sincere condolences to his family, colleagues, and all who were impacted by his life. Thank you.
I'd like to take a 5-minute break, please. We're going to take a break. All right, we're back. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know the room's kind of cleared out, but just wanted to kind of put it on the record that, we've seen a lot of changes in Palmer in the last year with a new fire chief and a new police chief. And it's kind of funny, my first couple years on the council, we always used to refer to Police Chief Shelton as the good chief and Fire Chief Cameron as the great chief. So I want to say that in my time in Job Corps, working with him to teach young Alaskans how to operate fire extinguishers and other things, that he was just always friendly and always super approachable. Definitely my loss that I did not get a chance to know him better, and definitely feel for the family. I can semi-relate, as I lost my father to cancer when I was 2 years old, so a little less memories than these young people will have. But when a young person is taken away way too soon, I'm really glad, Mr. Mayor, that you took the time to recognize him, and I wish his family well as they try to recover. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Moving on to, we have a report from the Mat-Su Valley Planning for Transportation, the MPO, and Metropolitan Planning Organization. Ms. Kim Solian, please.
That you might need to turn on. Just there's a button at the end.
Hold
of the microphone, you just have to hold it.
the bottom 3 seconds or so, and then a green light comes on.
Is it on now? Okay. Well, thank you very much for allowing me to come speak tonight. My name is Kim Solian, and I'm the Executive Director of Mat-Su Valley Planning for Transportation. There are a lot of new faces in this room. I've presented here a few times about the development of our MPO, and so I'm really happy to come again and reintroduce us to you all. And I'm going to go over a little history about what a metropolitan planning organization is, who we are as an organization, but really going to focus on our call for projects, which is launching tomorrow. And I wanted to make sure that you all are aware of that process and have the opportunity to participate in that. So let's see. Go ahead and advance to the third slide. One more, but up back the other way. There we go. So Mat-Su Valley Planning for Transportation is a metropolitan planning organization. Essentially, we are federally required to do comprehensive planning related to transportation and policy making within the greater core area. So when the Mat-Su Borough was designated as having an urban area after the 2020 census was certified, we received notification, I think it was in December of 2022, that the greater core area had received this designation. And once an area reaches a population threshold of over 50,000 people, there is a requirement that the region form a metropolitan planning organizations with the regional governments. And why that is required is that back in the 1950s, when the interstate system, the Eisenhower Interstate, was being built across the country and connecting all the major cities in the country, there were some missteps that happened, and communities weren't invited to weigh in on where they wanted sections of the highway to go through their community, and some communities were devastated and neighborhoods were lost. And so once President Kennedy was elected, he passed a new transportation bill requiring that there be a different coordination process with local municipalities when federal funds are being spent in a region. And that was kind of the birthplace of MPOs. And so since our population has reached that threshold, we're now required to plan as regional governments where we want the infrastructure to go. Prior to having an MPO, the state DOT would receive its annual allocation of federal funding, and DOT would prioritize where they wanted the projects to be. But now that we're here, we get to have a say. So it's really putting a local voice, local control on those federal funds that come into our region annually. We're one of 3 MPOs in Alaska. There's an MPO in Fairbanks that's very similar to us, and a large MPO in Anchorage. So MVP became a nonprofit organization. We opened our bank account on February 14th, and so that's why I say that's our birthday. It's easy to remember. But the regional governments, the Mat-Su Borough, the City of Palmer, the City of Wasilla, the DOT, Knik Tribe, and Chickaloo Native Village had been working together since 2020, thinking about, we knew that the population threshold was probably going to reach the 50,000 mark, and we were going to be required to form an MPO. And so we started planning in advance on how are we going to do this? How are we going to work together as regional governments? What kind of structure are we going to form? And they decided together, the pre-policy board, that we would form a nonprofit organization because none of the regional governments wanted to host the MPO, like make the MPO a department, like AMATS in Anchorage is housed within the municipality of Anchorage. But the regional governments decided it would be better if we could have a nonprofit organization house the MPO and it be an independent entity working together. We're governed by a 7-member policy board. Mayor Cooper serves as our chair right now, which is great. He just came on board and is doing an excellent job. So thank you for letting us have him serve in that role. Colby Manager Zirkle has sat in prior to Mayor Cooper signing on when Mayor Carrington was the chair of the board. We also have the mayor and manager from the Mat-Su Borough, the mayor of the City of Wasilla, the Central Region Director for DOT, and representatives from both Chickaloon and Knik Tribal Transportation Departments. And they're our governance board. We also have a 16-member technical committee made up of planning and public works directors for the regional governments, plus transportation advocates. Jude Billifer, your Public Works Director, serves on our technical committee. And so they're kind of the workhorses behind the scenes with staff that work on all the plans and projects and then bring the information to the policy board for approval. So as I mentioned, can you, 2 more slides? I'm changing my slides, but forgot to tell you to change yours. Can you go back to the map? There we go. So when we were designated as an urban area, that shaded tan area is the area where our population is over 50,000 people. We were required as an MPO to define a planning area boundary for our MPO so that when we do our planning products, we have a distinct geographic area that we're planning within. And what's required is that our planning area include the whole urbanized area boundary, plus what we think will become urbanized over the next 20 years. And so we did some, looking at development and population projections and made that our geographic boundary. We will have an opportunity every time a census occurs to revisit our boundary to make sure we got it right. Because as we know, our population doesn't always grow in the way we predict it might. And so if it doesn't grow in this way and it doesn't become urbanized in that area, we have an opportunity to change it. Next slide. So like I said, really what I'm here tonight to talk about is our Metropolitan Transportation Plan and our formal call for projects, which I wanted to make sure you as the Palmer City Council had the opportunity to know that what point we are in this process and know that we'll be looking for you to submit projects to be incorporated in our plan. So next slide. So a Metropolitan Transportation Plan, it's a plan that looks at a 20+ year horizon and considers all the transportation investments our region will need based on where and how we think our population is going to grow, what we think our economy is going to need for access. We're also looking at transit services, bike and pedestrian facilities, and freight, how goods and services are moving throughout our community. So we're looking at all modes of transportation. The other focus of the Metropolitan Transportation Plan is to make sure that the goals and objectives of the plan are also in line with the goals and objectives of what the cities want, what the borough wants, and of course DOT and the tribes. This plan is federally required, and we will update the plan every 5 years. Like I said before, it's a 20-year horizon plan, 20+ years, 25 years. It's hard to know that far into the future exactly what we're going to need, but we're thinking about it. And so we'll be required to program 20 years worth of projects and have them listed in that plan. But again, we might not get it right, so every 5 years we'll have an opportunity to modify and adjust the plan. Next slide. So in terms of developing an MTP, one of the first things that we need to do was develop our goal, our vision for the plan, what we want our transportation network to look like, identify goals and objectives. We put those out to the community. Our policy board ended up approving them. We got some feedback from the community based on, are these good goals or not goals, and what should they be? And then those goals will be used to drive the projects that we select from the projects that are applied for. We also have spent the past 6 months or so analyzing the transportation network, looking for deficiencies. Where are there major safety issues? Where are there connectivity issues? Where is there congestion? Where are we seeing gaps, for say, in the bike and pedestrian network, where we could add a section of bike and ped separated pathway, or where do we need a new crosswalk or a signalized crossing? Where might there be lighting issues? And so we've done this kind of behind the scenes research to know where issues are. We've also been had a call for project. We have an interactive comment map on our website where we'll be inviting the community to let us know where they think the problems are. And we've also had an online survey that's been active since December 3rd. And I think we've got about close to 200 folks who've taken the survey and given us feedback, and another 150 or so people who have commented on the interactive comment map. So both the system deficiency report and the information that the public has given us about where the problems are in the network have been combined, and we're working with your Public Works Director and the Mat-Su Borough and the City of Wasilla to let them know that information so that they can use it to identify projects that maybe the city would like to apply for. So we'll have a nomination period open for at least 30 days. It might be longer since this is our first time. It may take more time for everyone to apply for the number of projects that we need. And I'll talk a little bit about the funding next. Once we get all the projects nominated, we have a evaluation process, and then we'll bring those projects that are valid back to the policy board for review to make sure these are the projects that they want to move forward, and then the plan will get finalized, and then we'll build our TIP, our Transportation Improvement Plan, which is our 4-year funding plan, which if we're going to have 20 years of projects programmed or identified, we know that we have to prioritize year 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's what will be in our TIP. What happens if we don't complete an MTP and don't have a TIP? It means no federal funding can be spent in our metropolitan planning area boundary. So it is required that we complete this plan and that we have all the projects identified, both for the cities and the borough and DOT in our plan to allow that federal funding to flow into our region. Next slide. So I spoke earlier about one of the first things we did was to identify our vision and goals for our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So our vision really is to help create a safe, efficient, multimodal transportation system that fosters reliable and accessible options for all modes of travel, supports the economy, the environment, and promotes healthy communities. And to that end, we developed these 7 goals, hopefully that will help point the types of projects we would like to see so we can achieve that vision. So mainly we want to make sure that we're supporting a transportation network that is connecting where people live to where people work, and making the opportunity for people to get to businesses, to get to the store, to get to medical facilities easier. And so that's number 1 priority. We also want to enhance safety for all modes. So we're making sure that we have the right infrastructure in place. So if you choose to walk to work or walk to school, you can safely get there. Or you're not having to traverse a dangerous intersection every time you're getting in your car to commute to work. We also want to leverage all available funding sources. So we will receive an annual allocation of funding There will be a match requirement, a non-federal share, but then we're also eligible for a lot of discretionary grants. As a nonprofit, we can receive the grants, but we can also help the cities and the borough apply for other grants to leverage those funds. One of the big focuses for us was to maintain the system that we have. So not only is it a priority for us to support building new infrastructure, we want to make sure that we're being good stewards of the infrastructure that's already there. Again, we want diverse transportation options. We want shortened commute time. And we want the network to be resilient. So we don't want to negatively impact the environment by additional infrastructure that we're building, but we also want that infrastructure to be able to survive snowpocalypse and storms and anything else that may come our way, so the investments last. Next slide. Oh, one more. So as I mentioned before, we've we're in phase 2 of starts tomorrow actually, the formal nomination process, but we have been doing public engagement since early December. We held an open house. We've had our interactive comment map up and our transportation survey. We will be producing the results of the public comment map and the survey. They'll be on our website for review if anyone wants to look at it. It's still open now if you want to leave your own comments, both either on the survey and or on the map. It'll be open till the end of January. So with the formal nomination process, based on the goals and objectives the goals that I talked about, we have a nomination application that will be live. You'll apply via our website. The Mat-Su Borough is hosting a GIS database survey 123 application process. And so all of the nominations will go into a system for us to evaluate. And then in the spring of depending on how long it takes to get applications in the door, we'll evaluate the projects and then bring them back out to the community for review and to make sure is anything missing. Next slide. So, So what are we talking about in terms of funding, and what does this really mean? So we have, based on the formula, our MPO's share of federal funds is about $10 million a year annually, and that's what we'll be programming in our TIP for those first short-term projects that are in our MTP. But when you think about the MTP, we're planning on a 25-year horizon. So $10 million might not seem a lot, like for on an annual basis to build a transportation project because they're very expensive. But if you think about the life of our MTP, that's $250 million. So now that's some real money on the table. We can do some probably pretty amazing projects. And so we will be looking for projects to be nominated for that full 25-year period. And so that's why I wanted to come before you all to talk with you about it, to make sure that you know that it's a pretty big opportunity and we want to see the city of Palmer have the opportunity to apply for projects that you think are a priority. So as I mentioned before, all the projects that if we want to receive federal funding for projects, they have to be in our MTP, and then they will eventually get programmed into our TIP. So prioritizing the projects that are applied for will be a second step in the process, and I'll definitely be asking if I could come back and speak to you once we get to that phase. Again, the types of projects that we'll be looking for: intersection improvements, new road construction, new road surfacing or rehab, lighting projects, signage projects, safety projects for pedestrian infrastructure, or improving intersections. We'll also be looking for transit infrastructure. So we want to hit all modes of transportation and get a diverse suite of small projects and large projects, so that because of the $10 million a year kind of cap, we'll need both to be moving forward in the TIP. And with that, I can pause. I hope I didn't take too long. I'm happy to answer any questions if folks have them.
Before I go to you, Deputy Mayor, I want to let folks know that Palmer already has 4 projects online in there. They're small projects, but I'm looking forward to work with Public Works and come up with more projects that are needed in Palmer. And I want to say the city's apportionment is approximately, is it like 10%, 9.3% or something like that?
9.03%
Right.
is the non-federal share. So if you're nominating an infrastructure projects that that's what the portion that you would need to come up
Yeah,
with.
which is far better than 100%.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Kim, for being here and presenting, appreciate it. I'm gonna dig into the finance pieces a little bit. So, almost happy birthday here on Valentine's Day of 2 years that it's been, since you opened a bank account. So, so within the ballpark that you can discuss, what's in the account now? Has there been any $10 million infusions now on October 1st, 2025 or October 1st, 2024 that puts the money into the account to move forward? Or what are we looking at now after 23 months of having an account open?
That is an excellent question through the mayor to Councilmember Alcantara. So MVP was eligible for funding starting on October 1st, 2024. But we didn't fully have our organization formed. We hadn't created an MTP, so we couldn't program our own funding. So Federal Highways suggested that we develop something called a program of projects, where we looked at projects that are currently in the STIP and made recommendations to the policy board, the technical committee did, to the policy board to fund certain projects so we wouldn't lose that funding since we didn't have our MTP. So I don't have the program of projects in front of me. But what I can say is starting October 1st of this year, we'll have around $16 million to program for that first year. But we have allocated funds to I'm trying to think if there's any projects in Palmer. I'm looking at my colleague Adam Bradway with DOT. One of the projects that's coming to mind is the bike path along Palmer Fishhook. There, I think, is a separated pathway along Outer Springer
Right.
related to the city of Palmer.
And the paving projects. Paving.
Oh, there's a number of streets in downtown Palmer that funds have been allocated to pave that are on the other side of the highway. So there are Christmas presents under the tree currently for the city of Palmer. But yes, we'll have about 16 million starting October 1st based on carryover funds that we haven't programmed since we had that first allocation of
October 1st of 26.
October 1st
9
of
months
26.
ago. Okay. Follow up, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
So speaking of funding and money to operate, I don't have those old documents in front of me, obviously, so I'll go off my old memory. Palmer's contribution annually is somewhat based on our population, if I recall. So I'm just going to throw WAGs out there and say, if we have a population of 6,000, we pay about $5 per person, and Palmer pays about 30 grand a year, where Wasilla, with a population around 9,000, pays 45,000 a year. The borough pays more. Chickaloon Tribe pays less, et cetera. Is that how the sum of the operational money gets funneled? And are those payments made every July 1st, or when do we make the payments to you for that?
Through the mayor to Councilmember Alcantara, that's a great question. So our operation funding comes through Federal Highways. So we receive about $450,000 a year to operate the organization. And then there is a requirement of that non-federal share from our regional partners. So I think for the city of Palmer, I don't have the numbers, it was about $3,000 for that annual share based on the city of Palmer's population. We needed initial seed money once we formed the organization. So we came up with a formula that it was about, I think you were right, it's either $5 or $6 per person in our metropolitan planning area boundary. And so then each of our policy board members were required to pay, based on the population that they serve, an initial membership fee. And then, so that was our seed money, because all of the grants that we receive for operation are reimbursable. And so we needed to have cash in the bank to be able to make payroll while we were waiting for reimbursement from the DOT. But annually, before or right around October 1st, there is that requirement of an annual membership dues, which is, I think, 36, it was calculated on population, but like 36 cents a person or something. And then that money is given to DOT as part of the non-federal share. So that goes back to DOT, and then that's what they combine with the federal funds to reimburse us based on our monthly billing.
Okay, thank you.
Council-
One last one, and I'll get away from the financial part. And I've already had this conversation with the mayor and the chair of your organization now, so I feel comfortable. Maybe it won't happen again, but this is one of these like individual picadillos that stick in my craw as a person who commuted Anchorage for 20 years, is that when we have public process things like open houses or a chance to articulate, the citizens get a chance to articulate on any topic whatsoever, and it's not just you guys, it's multiple people that do this. Nothing burns me more than when we do things from 4 to 6 or 3 to 5 or some other things. I get it if it's public policy meetings or the 16-member committee and those people are working during their workday and they want to meet 2 to 4 or whatever. But my recollection is the thing on December 3rd was a 4 to 6 or even a 3 to 5 type of thing. And, you know, immediately I probably said something in a past November council meeting like, bah, I'll make it because you can't get there. And, you know, speaking for the 30,000 other folks on the road tonight and probably halfway between here and Anchorage right now if they left their office at 5 o'clock. I hope in the future, not just you guys, but any events, maybe a 5 o'clock start time would be the you know earliest, and then it would go to 7 or something like that to at least allow a puncher's chance of people to actually get there and you know how it is. Sometimes 12 people show up, sometimes 100. You just gotta, but you have to be accessible enough to allow them to do that. So that's my soapbox on that one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Collins.
Thank you. I had two questions. One, I did see the interactive comment map online, and I was curious, is that being used just to identify potential projects, or is there like, say if 100 people mention a certain situation, does that provide some weight as far as when a decision is being made by the board?
Excellent question through the mayor to Councilmember Collins. So the interactive comment map and the survey the comments are being analyzed right now. At our technical committee meeting on February 10th, we will be presenting that information back to our technical committee, but our hope is that we'll get the data analyzed in a format that we can give to all of our applicants who may be applying for projects, so that, let's say if the city of Palmer or if Via Jude is applying for projects, he'll be able to see what was suggested from for the city of Palmer, and that might inform the projects that you all apply for. In terms of how that will impact scoring criteria, in our scoring criteria matrix, we are identifying that projects get extra points if the public has also identified that a project is a need. So both to help, so the interactive comment map information and the project ideas that we collect will inform, hopefully, applications for projects, but then they'll also inform the scoring of those projects and giving them an additional bump up.
Okay. Well, that gives us some motivation then to get on there and answer some questions. So appreciate that. My second question, and maybe this is too broad for tonight's meeting, so just let me know if that's the case, but one of the things identified was public transportation, and I know some years ago I used to see a bus occasionally come through Palmer. Now I just see it more in the Wasilla area. I didn't know what the current status of the public transportation is, and if it's something that's being looked at extending, or if it's just not worked out in the past and not going to try again yet, or what status is.
Question through the mayor to Councilmember Collins. So with the urbanized area designation, there was a change in how the Federal Transit Administration funding comes into our region. So prior to our urban area, the state DOT community transit program funded transit providers, primarily Valley Transit, to operate transit services in the Mat-Su borough. Now that we have an urban area, there was a requirement for a local government to become a direct recipient and engage with FTA directly. So the Mat-Su borough agreed to be the direct recipient of the funds that are allocated to our region every year. They went through a process of applying for the funds and issuing a request for proposals or contract service to operate transit in the Mat-Su borough, or at least the greater core area for these specific funds. Rural funds are different animal, but Valley Transit did apply to continue to operate service. So the assembly agreed to the one of the glitches or issues with the transit funds once you become an urban area is the match requirement changes. And so there is a 50% match requirement. So we are allocated about $1.8 million a year to support urbanized, the transit service in the urban area. When I say we, I mean the region. And so there is a requirement that those funds are matched with non-federal funds at a 50% rate. Prior to our urban area, the Mat-Su Health Foundation has been paying the match for the Valley Transit services that were in operation prior to this switch. They made the decision that once we became urbanized, it was really the local government's responsibility to provide for that match. So the assembly did allocate, I think, about I can't speak to the exact budget because I haven't actually seen it. So transit services, there was not a break in service. Valley Transit is still in operation. They are running, because of our geography, a demand response service in the greater core area, and they are running, I think, 11 commuter service buses to Anchorage Monday through Friday, and then also a few on the weekend. We are going to, because public transit is a mode that we are responsible for planning for, we are going to host a special work session talking to transit providers, also Health and Human Service Organization, also taxi cab companies, and the public who are trying to use the service to get a better understanding of what are the issues, what are the needs. Is it infrastructure that's causing the challenge? Is it just the schedule of rides that's causing the challenge? We know, and we have heard from the community, that there is a greater need than the service is actually able to provide at this point. What we don't know is it a funding issue? Is it a scheduling issue? Is it an infrastructure issue? And so we need to collect some more information. I certainly think there is opportunity to expand, at least for the commuter service, bus stops possibly in Palmer and in Wasilla and maybe Fishhook and down KGB, so that commuters who need to get to Anchorage but can't get to a park and ride where there's a regularly scheduled stop. I think there is an opportunity to maybe support expansion of that, but we're not quite there yet.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for you, or actually a couple. We talked about the technicians and the technical support. Is that going to be extended to the planners and zoning members as well in the different communities? Because they look at the walkability in each of these areas for pedestrians, and they might be able to provide you some better guidance for what the commissions are doing and looking at.
Through the mayor to Councilmember Mosier, for clarification, are you asking if we're offering presentations to planning and zoning commissions in the cities and the borough?
I don't think that's quite the question, but yes, that can be one of them. No, what I'm asking for your technical staff, are you going to include the planners in each of the communities?
So we have, so your planning staff. So yes, we have, and I'm spacing on his name, but your new,
Nathaniel?
yes, he has started coming to some of our meetings. Our meetings are open, so our technical committee meetings he's not officially on the technical committee. Jude serves as Palmer's representative, but our meetings are open. The second Tuesday of every month, they're hosted hybrid, virtually and in person. I think we have been meeting at the DOT office on Seward Meridian, but I think we're gonna switch to the Mat-Su Borough in one of their conference rooms, so they're larger. So with our open meetings, the public is welcome to join us, as also members, professional staff of the cities and the borough. And on every single action item and agenda item, we have space for additional comments. So if Nathaniel isn't actually on the committee, invitation for folks to weigh in is there. So yes.
Okay. And then my second question, and I went out to your website and I did look at it. Are there projects already listed so we're not double tapping and so that we can see or maybe weigh in on some of these?
That is a great question through the mayor to Councilmember Mosier. It's a little tricky to find it, but our program of projects is listed on our website, and I'm trying to think exactly the path to go through, but I can send a follow-up email that maybe the clerk can send out on, so you can see the list of projects that are already currently being funded that are in the STIP and through our improvement program. The mayor mentioned that City of Palmer already has some projects in our improvement program, which is a little bit different than the projects we're asking to nominate in the MTP. And I will make sure to get that link to you.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Councilwoman Carrington?
So for the public transit at this point, they're still doing the on-demand that they had set up before. So what's the time frame on looking at that for something that might change it to make it a little more accessible to more people?
Excellent question through the mayor to Councilmember Carrington. So I think we've settled on a date. We're thinking about the end of February, but probably March 12th is when we'll host a special transit listening session, stakeholder meeting. I haven't decided exactly what we're going to call it. There has been a lot of planning in the past looking at public transit in the region, so we have reviewed a lot of those plans. The Mat-Su Borough has done 2 or 3 surveys of the public asking for ridership information about what the needs are and what the challenges are. So we have collected all of that information. We're gonna host this, I think it's going to be on March 12th meeting. We'll make sure that it extends later in the evening so those commuters who are coming from Anchorage have the opportunity to attend. That is an excellent point. So we'll see what happens at that meeting to see what the opportunities are. We're gonna hear from People Mover in Anchorage because I know that they are running a new shuttle service coming out to the region. I wanna learn more about that. The providers that are currently here providing services, again, not just Valley Transit, but some of the health and human service organizations that are providing it, they'll be invited, plus members of the public. So that's kind of step 1. Let's hear more about what the need and opportunity is. We're gonna co-host this meeting with the Mat-Su Borough because they're really in charge now of managing transit since they received the funding and they hold the contract. If any changes were to happen with service, it would have to come through the Mat-Su Borough to their contractor. So my hope is that we're gathering information that the borough can use to maybe expand or change services. The other thing that I will share is that we do have funding set aside to do a specific transit development plan, further digging into what are the needs, what are the opportunities, what are the other federal funding opportunities that possibly could be married with the transit funds. Some of the funds for, say, for instance, senior and persons with disabilities, some of those funding streams don't require a match, and so, or they don't require a non-federal match, and so they can be married with the federal transit fund. So I think there is an opportunity maybe to expand service and maybe be creative, but we're kind of at least in terms of our facilitation role and bringing all the entities together, kind of at step 1. So we'll be here, once we have this first meeting under our belt, we'll have more information. Hopefully we'll give a report out about what we heard and learned and what those next steps are.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Kim? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Moving on to reports, and I have to apologize for my voice. I'm obviously fighting a cold, and I decided I would come here and, spread the joy to everybody. So I don't think I'm contagious, but moving on. City manager's report, please.
Thank you. Tomorrow, the city will deliver its annual State of the City presentation at the Chamber of Commerce Luncheon. All department directors will be in attendance, and we look forward to sharing our accomplishments and outlining our 2026 priorities with the community and business leaders. Topics will include the city's comprehensive study, our current financial position, future needs, economic impacts of the various departments, and again, updates from every single department director. And as a reminder, the Parking and Pedestrian Access Strategic Plan draft has been posted online for public review. The public comment period has been extended to January 31st, 2026, and we encourage residents, business owners, and stakeholders to review the draft and provide feedback as everyone works toward improving downtown mobility and access. In Palmer, spring construction season is right around the corner, believe it or not, and we're preparing for a very active year. Some of the most visible projects that people will see will include the construction of the library as well as improvements along Evergreen Avenue and Cedar Avenue. We're also investing in infrastructure work that is not apparent from the road, but it is equally important to the long-term health of our facilities. These projects include asbestos remediation, carpet replacement, and other internal upgrades to ensure our buildings remain safe, functional, and reliable for our city and staff day in and day out. Overall, my focus is on being proactive and fixing these things before they become a bigger issue and balancing visible progress with some of these behind-the-scene works that keep us all running smoothly. And my role and commitment is to protect the city, mitigate risk, and follow the law. And if that commitment is viewed as a solution in search of a problem, then so be it. Because ensuring the city operates legally is essential to all good governance. Ultimately, I will not ignore the law for the sake of convenience or keeping the status quo. And in this next statement, I wasn't entirely sure where to begin because it involves a deeply personal claim directed towards both myself and one of my minor children. But I'm going to address it. A claim was made suggesting that an individual with the last name Miller, Jeff Miller, who works at Cruz Construction, is somehow related to me and my daughter, and that somehow creates a conflict of interest. Many of you know, and many of you don't know, that I lost my husband in an avalanche in 2015. He was killed when she was 7.5 months old. His obituary is still publicly available online and clearly identifies his surviving family. He did not have a brother. Jeff Miller is not my daughter's uncle. There is no family relationship with this individual, and they simply happen to share one of the most common surnames in the entire United States with my late husband, Miller, number 7 out of 10. It is quite unfortunate that such an assumption was made without verifying something so personal and so easily discredited. Google it. It was in the newspaper. There was an article written on his death. And I've always taken conflicts of interest seriously, and I welcome fair, fact-based review. However, when concerns involve my late husband and/or my minor children, all of them should be approached with care, accuracy, and the respect these matters deserve. Invoking a dead man and a minor child crosses the line. And I don't need to remind everyone here, but once again, Palmer is getting hit with another round of snow. So we ask everyone to please move vehicles that are parked on the street. Crews will continue snow removal at 3 a.m. tonight, and our current plan is to begin pulling snow from the downtown areas at 3 a.m. on Thursday and Friday. We know this can be very disruptive, so we appreciate your patience as our crews work to keep the community accessible. If everyone does their part, which includes the city, businesses, and residents, we can get these roads and sidewalks cleared safely. Lastly, I'd like to invite John Dementi up here for a department update on the airport. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I've heard some misconceptions about the airport over the last few months and want to start maybe coming in and giving you a bit of a report, kind of an update on what your airport actually does and what it is. Tonight, I'd like to focus on the business of the airport. The airport consists of about 20 hangars on different pieces of property. We include three of the largest employers in Palmer: New Horizons Telecom, Cruz Construction, the Division of Forestry, and Everett's Air Cargo. Notice that I said three of the largest employers in the city. Everett's Air Cargo, the fourth one listed, is one of the largest aviation employers in the state and has a real small footprint here in Palmer. So they are a major airline, just not so much here in Palmer right now. The rest of the airport is small businesses. We've got a bunch of small businesses out at the airport. The types of businesses that we have, everybody's in the aircraft storage business. If there's a corner of the hangar to store an aircraft and charge a few bucks, make a few dollars to offset the cost of the hangar, everybody's gonna do it. I'm gonna take that opportunity. We've got 4 MROs. An MRO is a maintenance, repair, and overhaul facility. We have a facility that specializes in King Airs. We have an avionics shop. We have an engine overhaul shop, and we have a general maintenance facility. None of these folks need to advertise. The business comes to them and they turn it away just about every day. We have 3 flight schools. I'll get to them here in just a moment. We have an aerial application business. Aerial application means dropping liquid from the sky or carrying liquid from here to there. It's performed with a dromedary. What's a dromedary, you might ask? It's like an air tractor. What's an air tractor, you might ask? It's just think of from Disney's movie Planes and Planes Fire Rescue. This is Dusty Crophopper. After that, you got to Google it from there. I can't really explain anymore. This is the only business of the kind in the state. This is it. If anybody needs any sort of like small scale fuel haulage, to a small remote runway, this is where they come. They seed fish in remote lakes. We have the only Type 1 helicopter in the state. It's based here in Palmer. A Type 1 helicopter is a helicopter 12,500 pounds or greater. It has to have a crew of 2. The only one in the state. It's based here. It's an old it's an H-60. Probably I would imagine it's a military surplus, 8,000 pounds on the hook. It's a very adept firefighting machine. We have a skydiving business here. They struggle with the weather sometimes in the summer, but you do see them on a nice Saturday afternoon. You see them just going like crazy. We have 2 fuel businesses, 2 fuel providers. One on the north end, one on the south end of the airport. The one on the north end of the airport also provides aviation fuel to the community of McGrath. We have an aircraft parts store on the south apron. Moving on to the flight schools, that's the vast majority of our traffic. That's what everybody here is going overhead, doing the touch and goes over and over again. So when you see these aircraft, what this aircraft is there's a student on board that plane, obviously, probably with an instructor. That student likely came from out of state or out of the area anyway. That could be a Palmer City resident flying around learning how to fly. That could be somebody from the borough, from Anchorage. There's flight instructors now from North Carolina, from Florida, learning what snow is. There's folks here from Germany, from Switzerland. They come from all over the world to learn how to fly in Alaska, how to teach in Alaska. So this is a student paying a small business for the privilege of learning how to fly. The business of flying is expensive. A student will pay $20,000 to get their private pilot's license on average. 15 to 25 depends on the knowledge, skills, and ability of the particular student. $55,000 to $100,000 is what it costs to get your commercial license, depending on what flavors, if you're an instrument or whatever flavor of commercial license that you get. And if you get the full meal deal, the big chicken dinner, you're going to pay $120,000. And what that gets you is a commercial flight instructor. You can now turn around and teach. You have an instrument rating, so you can teach instruments, and you'll likely have an MEI, which is a multi-engine instrument rating, a multi-engine instructor rating. So you can turn around and teach folks how to fly twin engine. What does this do? This we've got 2 different flavors of flight school here at Palmer. We have a Part 141 flight school. That's kind of a big deal. A Part 141 flight school is an FAA-approved syllabus, and it allows students to go through at a little bit quicker pace than your average flight school. They can get their licenses just a little bit earlier because of this structure. And what this is it's a pipeline for a future professional pilot coming through. We're already feeding a bunch of the airlines down in Anchorage, and it's likely that in the future that when you fly from Anchorage to Seattle, one of these pilots is going to be up front. Because of the 141 structure, it's considered an actual school. You can get students can get federal assistance to go to school. You can get a student loan. The VA recognizes 141 flight schools and will provide veterans with the opportunity to learn how to fly. The Part 61 flight school, not to disparage them at all, but a Part 61 flight school is it's a more flexible program. This is geared towards the pilot. This is geared towards you're now not bound to this structure. You can focus on your specific knowledge, skills, and abilities. You can this is for the student who doesn't have $120,000 to get the full meal deal. It's a pay as you go, and it's very flexible. But these folks can also go graduate and go to the airlines. It's more likely that they go and get their private pilot's license, go buy an airplane, and go fly. With these flight school aircraft, they're revenue producing machines. You'll notice how often they fly over town. Every time they fly over, that's a small business making money. We've also have another school, another flight school, Part 61 school, that teaches primarily college-age kids to fly and maintain aircraft in the bush, in the backwoods. And the purpose of that is so that they can fly and maintain those aircraft while performing missionary work around the world. Recreational flying does occur. There's very little of it here at that. I wouldn't say very little, but it's compared to all these other folks I've talked about, they make a very small percentage of the flights in and out of the Palmer Airport. And their flying here, their presence here of the recreational flying is made possible by the businesses that are here. Those businesses pay 2/3 of the bill out at the airport. The airport is not a business. The airport is not here to make a profit. The airport is infrastructure. It's aviation infrastructure, the same as a bridge or a road is for a vehicle. The goal is that it's a user maintained, it's a user paid structure where the goal is to break even. The goal is self-sustainability. We want to not cost the city any money. That's the ultimate goal of the airport. We're getting there. And the purpose, the reason you have an airport is to create the conditions for the private enterprise to be successful. That's why we're there. Thank you very much.
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, John. Good report, and it's exciting to hear about the functionality and about the fantastic things happening at the airport. Definitely appreciate your finishing thoughts. So it's not about making money, just like the MTA Event Center is not about making money. It's about providing infrastructure, providing services. But I also point out it's nice to hear that flight schools and small businesses and then larger businesses like Everett's and Cruise and others are at the Palmer Airport making money. But the closer we get to breaking even, the better it looks for us. We don't want to be how much do we have to spend on the airport this year? So, I mean, that because you've been there for a few years now. And I know none of us get out there often enough to, see what's really going on. But so it's good to have these reports to hear, what is truly happening. We had a young man stay with us from Juneau that is with us for about 4 weeks because he was doing that, $15,000 getting his license. So it is exciting and good to know that people That's, it's good to know businesses are making money, and it hopefully we'll get to a point where we're charging a reasonable amount for whatever services we provide that enable the companies, of course, to still have the infrastructure and to still have their smaller, medium-sized or larger businesses, but also make sure we're not subsidizing that in total either. So how, you said we're getting closer, how within reason, how close are we to the break-even point, if you ever look at that on a daily, monthly, quarterly basis?
We're a ways. We're a little bit away. We are, if you look at the budget this year, it's about $40,000 that the city injects into the operational budget. And then there's the matching to the, to whatever grants that we do capital improvements with. That's
The 6.25% or 5%?
Yes, sir. It's up for this year, last year and this year, it's 5%. It'll go back to 6.25% next year.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
comments on the city manager report and questions. I'm very sorry to hear that people are out there spreading rumors and gossip, and I think any city that should know just how to do a Google search and not get themselves into further trouble, it should be Palmer. So sad to hear that. I know when my mom was passing away, and I spent much time at Providence Hospital, I happened to be walking by a big screen TV and was like, Colby, what? You know, and so I actually literally called her. It was, I think, her first or second week on the job, and said, well, what was this all about? And she said what she unfortunately had to say today, that she had lost her husband at, I think, 29 years old or some age when he passed away in an avalanche. So it was nice to see that, you know, she made that heart-wrenching decision to save other humans by, you know, allowing his organs to be harvested. And it was one of those gobsmack kind of moments that leaves you a little speechless. So it's hard. I'm sorry what you're going through. Question I have, totally off topic on that, is I believe we have an attorney online, correct, tonight? But the golf course contract that the city council approved back in December, is the other attorney that was with us for a while, I don't know, I can't remember Charles's last name. I know his first name is Charles Casiola. Is he working a contract with the golf course
That's
on your
correct.
behalf, or are you working a contract with the golf course, or what's the update on that?
So before I went on vacation, he and I coordinated. I sent some of the changes I would like to see to help protect the city from liability concerns, tighten up some of the language around that. He took that, and he also had additional revisions this week, and I agreed with them, and he's reworking them, and we'll get that to the contractor when the lawyer, Mr. Casiola, is finished with it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I don't know if there's a way to find this out with Charles or through AMCO, but because I know we had a spreadsheet last meeting about beer and wine sales outside of an April 15th to October 15th timeframe, but did the city request a 6-month timeframe on their beer and wine license? Because people are saying that what they had seen in the past from, I think, 23 and 24, and I don't know if you can just look them up on AMCO's website, but there was no dates or anything like that on any kind of license that we had. So I'm just asking the question, did the city, maybe even before your time, and I'm glad John's here, did the city say, hey, we only need a license from April 15th to October 15th? Or has that been the case of that license for decades, I guess?
My understanding, it's been the case for decades, and in our application process, it actually says seasonal, and it gives exact dates. It wasn't anything that, when it was renewed in 2024, that the city requested. It's just a renewal of our license at that point. We didn't change it.
And would that be on the license itself? That has to be displayed at the golf course or any place of business? The actual dates of time, or is that only in, it would be? So on anything, it would be on there, okay.
And it's in the application packet that goes through council approval and everything. It's all a part of it. Same like you can look at your packet now and you'll see what the dates, how the applicant responds to the different questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions of either the Airport manager or the city manager? Thank you. Again, I apologize for my voice. So my report, last Thursday, met with the chamber. In the morning, we have a business meeting that folks come out and ask questions, and typically it's Borough and I, and my goal is to get businesses to come out and ask questions of the city and see where we're going, see what we can do for the businesses, how they can help, how we can help each other. We had president of the Friends of the Palmer Public Library there this last time, and we chatted a little bit about, their fundraising that's going to be going on here shortly. It was a good meeting. Unfortunately, it's at like 8:30 in the morning, but it is at Dead Horse Donuts, so that's not a bad thing. That afternoon, mayor's managers meeting was here and we meet with Wasilla mayor manager, Borough, and I. That was a good discussion. Just kind of just general stuff, what was going on. Friday, I met with the consular general from Japan. He came out from Anchorage to visit here in the city and just to welcome me, and I welcomed him at our first meet. And he brought his staff out, and we had a good conversation about sister city relationships and where we're gonna go. And in the future, where there's other meetings that we've got scheduled next month. Monday, the MLK celebration was held at the Glen Massey. I went there. There were, 40 or 50 people there or so. And it was a good gathering to learn a little bit more about MLK and what he provided for society. That evening at Moose Lodge was a history night, and it was Alex Hills came out and talked about how they started out with radio and how they got communication to the villages. And of course, way back when, it used to be ham radio, and then it progressed into things different. And we talked about the old White Alice sites and other sites that they had that they could provide information via radio. I'm sure there's probably some people here that probably maybe remember that. In Kodiak, we used to have that. It was every day that I can't remember exactly what it was called, but folks would call in and ask if a message could be transferred to somebody else, and which was really kind of interesting. And this was, in 1972, so it wasn't that long ago. Tomorrow, like the manager mentioned, that we are going to meet at the chamber and provide the state of the city. I'm not sure with my current health whether I'll be there, but I'll be there in spirit for sure. And final item is my intent with ordinance 25004, when we get to that point in unfinished business, is to postpone that indefinitely. Just to let folks know, we've had this discussion before, and and that's where I'm headed. Do anybody have any questions of me? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, your report, please.
My report's pretty short. We have AML coming up February 17th through the 19th. All of your flights and hotel have been made. I will start sending out information this week. I have all but one current council member going, so it'll be a full house. And then last but not least is we do have an open council seat. Applications are available. It closes on February 9th. You can get those either in person or online. And let me know if you have any questions.
There's also openings on planning and zoning, and I guess the other two, probably Parks and Rec and the Bed as well. I probably think you have available openings as well. So, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, did you say, what was the closing date on the applications for the city council?
February 9th.
February 9th.
Yep.
Thank you.
And online, Leslie, do you have any city attorney's report?
I'll just give a brief report. Start out by saying I apologize for not being there in person. My batting average for in-person attendance is pretty poor at this point, but it is our intent to be at meetings with you in the room every day it's possible to do so. We have begun meeting with department heads and receiving requests for work from a number of folks, coordinating responses, making sure the city manager is aware of the work that we're performing. That's fun and exciting as we're learning new things. We're eager to begin ticking those items off the list. And then in response to council questions about golf course, AMCO contracts, we are sort of general counseling those in the sense of remaining involved and informed. But it's absolutely correct that Mr. Cassiola is taking the lead on those projects because he had already been involved with those, and I think it's efficient for the city to maintain that course. I don't have any pending litigation matters that are on our desk to update the city on, but that's it for now. And if anybody has any questions, please let me know.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. This might be a question more for City Manager Zirkle than for the attorney, but with Mr. Cassiola, do we have a per hour rate we're paying and a cap on that? Or is it just like open-ended until that contract hopefully gets settled in short order?
It's a contract, so we pay him per hour on this, and once this contract is done, then we won't be using his services. It's just since he started the process, it felt like for continuity to help him continue.
I appreciate that. And the hourly rate is what, roughly?
I can't remember right now.
Ms. Need, do you know the answer?
I'm drawing a blank.
I don't. We did not. We were not involved in negotiating that agreement. I'm certain we can get you that information though before the next meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions or any questions of the attorney? Leslie, thank you.
Yep, my pleasure.
Moving on, item G, audience participation.
I'm gonna read our statement that the mayor usually reads because his poor voice. Council meeting rules protect your right to testify and be heard even if others in the room disagree with you. Council meeting rules also ensure that those attending can express their views if they do not interfere with the rights of others to see and hear the proceedings. At all times, order and decorum will be maintained in keeping with the civility and dignity of the legislative process. Please be respectful during audience participation. No disruptions to city business or threats of any kind will be allowed. Individuals who cannot follow these guidelines will be removed. Any threats against others could result in criminal prosecution. Please sign in, state your name, and 3 minutes per person. And I will need that sign-up sheet so I can say who's first.
Herb, thank you.
Thank you. I have Herb Bischoff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff. First of all, I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for hosting the Map City Planning for Transportation presentation, especially the excellent job that Kim did in presenting it in a concise and clear manner. I'm here on a tangentially related issue. It's very simple. It's to encourage the city to reapply for a small informational sign at the highway that identifies the historic downtown Palmer area. It's my understanding that this application has been rejected a couple of times. However, I got no indication of that in my conversation with representative of DOT today. The reason I'm here today and now is because the representative was very optimistic, positive, and encouraging that we go ahead and apply. The reason I'm asking or informing the city council is that while anyone can apply for that sign, and many of the folks in the Palmer area who have shown interest in this are willing to foot the bill, the Department of Transportation does tend to facilitate a possible waiver on annual fees for that sign. The annual fee is $400 for 5 years, $300 the subsequent reapplication. Consequently, that's why I'm encouraging the city to go ahead and resubmit that application. A possible reason the application was denied in the past has to do with the type of application that's filed. There are two specific designations, one for tourist-oriented destination sites, the other is more for signage that reflects recreation and cultural interest to people passing through. The sign you might be familiar with it is those small round signs with a white border that say, historic downtown Palmer, go this way. That would be in addition to the welcoming sign on the Glen Highway. Typically, DOT receives one application for a possibility of 2 signs. In this case, they're willing to consider 3 signs. That was indicated to me not to be a problem, which would allow us to place a sign, Palmer-Wasilla Highway, and 2 signs on the Glen Highway. Just for informational purposes, Palmer does have 14 national register historical facilities here in Palmer. I have a listing. I put together the notes from my discussion today with the DOT representative, and if it pleases the mayor, I would like to present that to the clerk and put it in your capable hands. Again, there are other people in the community happy to do the application for this purpose. However, I do believe it may be more appropriate for the city to reapply. Thank you. May I?
That saved me a lot of effort. I came to talk a little bit about, we've had a lot of discussion about parking, and one of the things that the city manager mentioned that she gained a lot of parking places, and among that was a little bit about eliminating some of the handicap. I'm here to tell you how absolutely important a handicap spot is if you can't walk. And you literally cannot go if you can't park in a handicap. So when you're looking at things, consider how important a handicap spot is to those who are handicapped. I'd be happy to trade places anytime. So thank you.
Michelle Egerton.
Michelle Kincaid. I just wanted to say a thank you to the Palmer Police Department and the Palmer Fire Department. We had a fire at the Valley Hotel about 8-10 days ago, and they were very quick to respond. Palmer PD was there first very quickly, as they always are, and the fire department came. They did an awesome job securing the building, getting everybody out safely. And the sprinkler did an awesome job, but unfortunately sprinklers do a lot of damage. But I just want to say the Palmer PD and the fire department are just awesome. I did want to talk about the parking ordinance that got moved to unfinished business. I'm glad to hear that it's going to be talked about and possibly postponed indefinitely. I felt like I don't understand what the rules and laws are on everything you guys do, but when it was proposed to have it postponed a while ago, I think back in September, and seconded, it seemed kind of odd that it wasn't carried through and voted on. Seemed like some of the proper processes weren't handled. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are talking about it. I also thought right from the get-go the ordinance is flawed because the premise says that based on 50 new parking spaces in Palmer, and that's just not correct. The pavilion has always been parking. Yes, that did get striped, which made it nice and neat and tidy, although you still see people parking, their food trucks and stuff the other way, but that's just what people do, and that's okay. But 50 new spaces were not created, and the other was where the railroad tracks were taken out at the end of the depot. But if you look at Google Earth, you can see a picture of the end of depot parking, including the railroad tracks, and it shows 22 cars parked there. one car in the process of parking, and several other empty spaces. And it just shows that the people of Palmer are resilient. Everybody knew that was parking. They didn't have a problem putting their tires over the railroad tracks, which were covered with a lot of earth already. But just I think it needs to be set straight that there are not 50 new parking spaces. Parking spaces that always keep getting upgraded and in better shape. But kind of like when I paid behind the hotel, I didn't create new parking places. I just took it from dirt to pavement and gave it some stripes. But once again, thank you for all that you do. And just I want you to know that your Palmer PD and Police Department are awesome. Thank you.
Lori Kopenberg.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Lori Kopenberg. I'm going to follow up with Michelle on the number of parking spaces. I think facts are important when you make your decisions for the city of Palmer. What I have here is I have a diagram that was created by the Community Development Director in May of 2023. It shows the same number of parking spaces in 2023 that have been created all of a sudden in 2025. I think facts are important when you make the decisions on this board. There are not any more parking spaces in the downtown core district than there were over the last probably 15 or 20 years. So when you make decisions from this council, you make them on facts and not somebody's misrepresentation to manipulate you into thinking that they're telling you the truth. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor, City Manager, and Council. I'm Steve Lawyer with the Palmer Chamber. I'm the current board president. I just wanted to give you guys a notice of our annual meeting on February 25th, so I hope you both attend to that. It's where we just discuss where the chamber's going, voting, and any bylaw changes, but I don't think we have any. So it's just voting in new board members. And I want to put a call out if anybody's interested in joining the Palmer Chamber Board. We are looking for nominees and nominations. So please reach out to the Palmer Chamber and we'll get you in touch with the nomination committee. And that's all I have for now. So thank you.
Michelle Grimes.
Hello, my name is Michelle Grimes, and I'm a business owner here in Palmer, and I'm here to respectfully request the mayor and the city council to request a release of obligation from the FAA for the golf course parcel. I also want to say thank you and just express appreciation for the folks in city leadership that have already spoken about the release and inquiring about it and expressed motivation to pursue it. So really, this release of obligation, it's a practical and obtainable solution, and it benefits the golf course, it benefits the airport, and it honors what the community has been asking for across several city council meetings. Palmer successfully obtained a release of obligation before, both in 2015 and 2018, and Palmer can make it happen again. So let's talk about the cost. It's true that the release of obligation may require the city to pay fair market value for the land. It's also possible that a waiver of payment could be pursued. But even if the city was required to pay fair market value for the land, the funds would go to the airport. So in that sense, the city of Palmer would be transferring money from one account to another. The money would stay in our community. Palmer can support a safe, well-maintained airport and keep a voter-approved, bonded, revenue-producing municipal golf course. The most reasonable and ethical way forward is clarity, it's accuracy, it's efficiency, it's not confusion or rhetoric or conflict. At times, I hear folks, and sometimes folks in city leadership, describe barriers and roadblocks to obtaining a release of obligation. It contradicts what I've read, what I've learned about, even my own direct communication with the FAA. So last month, in December, I spoke with an FAA compliance specialist for the Alaska region. I shared my concerns, my long-term concerns about the security of the Palmer Golf Course. And his suggestion, what he brought up, was seeking a release of obligation for that parcel. If the FAA says we can do this, we can do this. We should move forward on it. So my respectful request is both to the mayor and the city council, please direct your staff to pursue an FAA release of obligation for the Palmer Municipal Golf Course. And until that occurs, I know that's a long process and I know there's a lot to look into. So until that occurs, please keep the golf course out of future airport expansion scenarios unless and until a documented and demonstrated aeronautical need exists. Thank you.
Alex Wilson?
Hello, Mr. Mayor and esteemed council members and manager and city clerk. Okay, I have it all written down. I must preface with this. Oh, sorry, my name is Alex Wilson. Thank you. I must preface with this. I understand this is not an issue our city council can do much about, but I also follow the tenets of social justice leader Adrienne Maree Brown and the idea that small is all. What we do, voice, and fight for on a small scale can make widespread ripples and is representative of what can be and what is happening on a larger scale. Furthermore, our federal leaders are blatantly lying to us these days, so we must drive these changes and sentiments from the bottom up. I'm going to start big, but I promise I have an actionable ask at the end. I come here today as a current and longtime member of the Palmer community, but also as a person that grew up in South Minneapolis, and it has witnessed internationally recognized atrocities that we've all seen. These are all people who many in this room would have called friends or loved ones had we been in the same circles. All individuals who were not doing anything to harm another soul. They were all killed by law enforcement who decided to take other people's lives into their own hands. I am lucky enough to count many immigrants among my friends. Most are documented, but some are not, or their documentation is not current due to backlogs in our defunded and struggling governmental systems. All of them are amazingly hardworking individuals, adding to their communities through education, agriculture, building, healthcare, childcare, so many essential and giving careers that keep our society afloat. The thought that any of them would be targeted by underqualified and power-hungry thugs makes me livid. It makes me question the fabric of our society. It makes me want to flip tables in the rooms and houses of those that justify the cruel behavior and rhetoric spouted from the biggest leaders in the free world that have leaked into every aspect of society. Please reassure us that the efforts of the local police department are going to not just keeping peace, but making peace, to protecting us from real criminals, from the citizen who's a meth manufacturer down the road, and from the child abuser by the school, or the folks on the inside who hide heinous crimes. And I know that they're doing that, and I'm very thankful. For what it's worth, there have been more deaths committed by ICE agents on American citizens this year than by immigrants. Looking at the data, 1 in 1 million immigrants is a murderer. 1 in 675 ICE agents is. What is happening behind closed doors to the undocumented is surely atrocious. After last week's scare that ICE was in Palmer, I'm sure you all heard, many are in need of reassurance from our leadership. Some have heard that we don't need to worry about it because it won't happen here. This is not reassuring. This is burying our heads in the sand. At the very least, I and others would like to know that Palmer Police Department will not enter into a 287G agreement with DHS. At the very least. Please reassure us that you and our local law enforcement will stand on the right side of history, protecting those that live here, provide for our community, and love their neighbors, regardless of legal status. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor, council members, clerk, city manager. My name's Doug Hill. I'm a resident of Palmer. 67 years old. I never thought I'd be nervous about voicing my opinion in this country. These days I am, and I'm going to address what Alex just addressed there also. We need immigration enforcement and border patrol, but I am in no way in favor of this current 45th presidential administration version of either one of those agencies. Something needs to be done. And I'm hoping the city of Palmer is not on board with any of this type of behavior, thuggery. You mentioned Martin Luther King. I was there that day. I've been thinking about Martin Luther King and the whole civil rights movement. I grew up, I remember all that. I'm also thinking about my Finnish and Irish ancestors who were not welcome here. There are places in northeastern Minnesota and it's in Michigan where there used to be signs that said Finns and Indians are not welcome here. So anyway, I think I've said it all and that's enough, but thank you for this opportunity.
Anyone else? Sebastian?
Hello, City Council, Mayor. My name is Sebastian White, and I live here in Palmer. I wrote some stuff down. So kind of continuing on what the previous citizen said, I'd like to say that Alaskans were fiercely independent, and you know, if you pay attention to the fight for the Palmer Golf Course, we're not really big fans of the federal government all the time. And on Friday, last Friday, I received a text from Mat-Su School District stating that they were aware that ICE has visited schools in the lower 48, and they were reaffirming that, you know, my son's safety is paramount to the school district. I found that kind of odd that it came out of nowhere. I kind of felt like they were getting ahead of something. And then later that day, I learned that there were rumors that there was an ICE enforcement near Vagabond Blues. Usually I don't believe everything I hear on the internet, but that call from Mat-Su Borough School District kind of made me think that something was up. And like others said, I want the council and the mayor to have a plan in place to protect Pomeranians from, you know, any kind of state-sanctioned violence, and you know, to keep ICE out of our city. And that's kind of what I gotta say. Thanks.
Mr. Molesky.
Mike Malevsky. I live here in downtown Palmer. First, an apology. Every so often, equipment ages out, and one of our cameras did age out tonight, so I was able to get things going. I missed just the beginning of the session, but did pick it up as the fire department honored Chad and all the rest of this, so it's out there. But I wanted to apologize. I'd like to think that we are able to do it right from the get-go. Secondly, it was January 27th, right? One of the things that happens to be is the Holocaust Remembrance Day, and I know some of you know that. We did some programming around it, and I was reminded because I had spent about 3.5 years living in Germany at one point, and had done some study. Down in Munich, there's a collection of materials associated with the 1930s, essentially the development of the Nazi era. It's the best collection of materials. And I had spent some time looking at those materials because what has been obvious most recently, has been brought up in the last few speakers, is that the slide into doing things that result in something like the Holocaust, and maybe some of you have also visited concentration camps. I have been able to do that. And that was a distance from a small beginning in the early 1930s. And part of what it involves is something that we've all witnessed and like to think there must be something better to do than to have someone who is masked without identification and without a warrant stopping people who may or may not be U.S. citizens and intruding into their lives because they can. And I just want to add my comments to it, saying this is not something that hasn't happened before unless it stops. So thank you for listening.
One more. Right, we'll do Joel. Joel, you'll be the last one this time.
Excuse me?
You'll be the last audience participation until the next time. But please come, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, my name's Joel Stefanski. Thank you, Council, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity to speak. Obviously, I've been involved since, on the golf course issue since July with the airport advisory. I just went to last week's airport advisory. Got a bunch of good guys on that advisory. Obviously, they're meeting every month, and I highly recommend that council gets involved with the discussions there at the airport advisory on their master plan. There's a lot of good things that happened here tonight. The format we had with Kim here and the transportation, I highly recommend that you have a similar presentation by FAA. And so you can get educated, a work study thing with FAA come in and explaining things on release of obligation, so everyone gets up to speed really quick. So great presentation, and I'd like to see that happen in the future on other subjects. Here are the facts about the release of obligation process the community is requesting. A fair market value lease deals with rent, how much must be charged for the use of airport land while it remains part of the airport system under FAA Order Chapter 17. Please look up Chapter 17, Council. A release of obligation deals with land use, whether the land can be removed from federal airport restrictions, converted to non-airport purposes under FAA Order Chapter 22. Please look up Chapter 22. This has been mentioned before in several other meetings. These are separate processes with different legal purposes, and any council member can place the release of obligation on the agenda and discuss it publicly without waiting for a fair market value appraisal, because one is not dependent on the other to begin an open, on the record conversation with the community. And that's been a lot of the problem here from the get-go. You know, there's a lot of things that happen in the world, and a lot of outfits try to purposely pit one group against another. And I feel that that's happened here quite regularly. And the aviation community is here to stay. The golf community is here to stay. And it's been said many times over, but I feel that purposely there's been a division. And I'm sorry that that's pretty much came out of this body. And it should have never have, not saying the council, but there's been other people in the city who've made this happen, and it should have never got to this point. As I said many times, this is a great community, and I want to keep it that way. We need to work together and be successful. I'm going to use that over and over and over again. We can be successful and live together. Thank you very much for your time. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Can we take a 5-minute break?
I'd like to take a break, 5 minutes. Start right with the council, please. Your body tells you when to shut down.
Yeah. Yeah, go to sleep.
See you, Adam.
Rest.
Yeah, just need to relax with these people.
Look at what I did.
I know.
Every time.
I know.
Every time.
Like to bring us back to order, please?
Public hearings. We don't have any.
We have no public hearings. Moving on to action memoranda 26013, authorizing the city manager to purchase 2 new patrol vehicles and equipment in the amount of $154,493 and to purchase the vehicles under the governmental and proprietary procurement section of Palmer Municipal Code 3.21.230 by attaching to the State of Alaska contract. And this is budgeted. What's the wishes of the council?
Move to approve. Or second.
I'll just flip a coin.
One or the other. Any discussion, any questions? Yes, sir.
Didn't really have any questions, but the chief is there. It's just basically everything, all the information provided in the packet. It's about roughly, as I scroll to it, it's about 56,000 per vehicle and another 20 grand-ish to install the safety equipment with the other contractor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Chief, thanks. Let's take a vote, ma'am.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember Carrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosier?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Alcantara?
Yes.
And Mayor Cooper.
Yes,
It is a unanimous and approved.
thank you. Number 2, action memorandum 26022, authorizing the city manager to spend $65,000 in pass-through funds from the COSAP grant that was approved by council on December 12th, 2022. Wishes of the council.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any
Comments, questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just a comment or a question for the chief. So initially approved on December 13th, 2022. So we're talking a little over 3 years ago. And you continue to get the funds in 23, 24, 25, et cetera. Do we know how long does this go out into the future?
Yes, we do. So the grant was actually supposed to end in September, but because we had a significant amount of funds left within the grant, we requested an extension for 1 year. So this specific grant will end September 30th this year.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Carrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Alcantara?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosier?
Yes.
And Mayor Cooper.
Yes,
It is unanimous and approved.
thank you. Moving on to unfinished business. I'd like to move to introduce ordinance 25004. This was brought forward, obviously, at the beginning. This is an ordinance of the Palmer City Council amending chapter 17.64.050 Central Business District. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you. What I would like to do is immediately, I want to move, make a motion to postpone ordinance 25004 indefinitely.
Second.
Any discussion, questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I want to agree with that.
Okay, let me start by saying, because it's an introduction, we can't discuss anything related to the guts, if you will, of this ordinance.
Just the introduction, just whether or not it should be introduced.
Oh, okay.
But
All right.
if you have a comment, please.
I don't think we have a parking problem. I think it's because the businesses have been doing what we asked them to do all along. And so I agree.
Ma'am?
Oh, could I
Yes, I'm
start?
sorry. I'm sorry.
I just want to put a plug in on the parking issue. The Palmer Parking and Pedestrian Access Strategic Plan, the draft has come out. You've likely all seen that. There are some recommendations in there, and I would be really interested in what businesses thoughts on some of those recommendations. So whether interacting with the group that's putting this together or sending letters to city council, like we definitely read those. And so if any changes need to be made with parking, what might those be? And what are your thoughts on recommendations in here? I'd be really interested in hearing what those are.
I do want to say that this presentation was given to planning and zoning here a week or so about the parking by respect. And from what I understand, it was not received very well. So I think that that also adds fuel to the fire that we need to postpone this indefinitely. So Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Deputy Mayor Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Collins,
Yes.
Councilmember Mosier,
Yes.
Mayor Cooper.
Yes.
So that is unanimous and approved. So that's it. Postpone indefinitely.
Thank you. No new business, record of items placed on the table?
We have the application from Herb Bischoff.
All right, thank you. Now we're back on to audience participation.
And I have no one on the list, so whoever.
Palmer Bar.
Wesley Arts, Palmer Bar. My partner turned in a letter. Did you guys get that? That should have been, okay, just making sure it got turned in. Which now I don't have to read. I have some questions. So, as we were sitting here, I was Googling stuff. Merrill Field makes money. Lake Hood makes money. Why doesn't our airport make money? I think there should be a release of obligation that you guys should really seriously pursue that. I also think if, once that happens, if we have to move the golf course under Parks and Rec, move it, figure out where it's gonna go. Cause it shouldn't be underneath the airport once that's done. Also, actually, I do have to say thank you. We are very, very lucky in this community to have such a wonderful police department and fire department. I don't, even though we say it, I don't think they get the recognition that they deserve. They're constantly like walking through my bar to make sure everything's good. I really appreciate that. They're constantly watching out for the community. They're very involved with the community. They really need to be recognized with that because a lot of places don't have the small town interaction that our police department and fire department have with the community. And so I just want to let you guys know, I really appreciate them. And I know a lot of people do also. So thank you. And I forgot what else I was going to say, sorry.
There's always next meeting.
Nathaniel Lutz, resident of Greater Palmer. Additionally, I am the Community Development Director, and I'd be remiss if I didn't follow up some of the comments that have been made. I appreciated Councilwoman Collins for mentioning the race back study. It has been opened up for 10 more days for public comment. Embarrassingly enough, I went to go click on it because speaking with Respec last week, there was one response from the public. It's been open for 30 days, one response. And I figured, that's weird, something's wrong. So I went to the website, the hyperlink on the news banner, you click it, it goes to the direct link. And unfortunately, the page that advertises it, even wearing my glasses, I couldn't see who you're supposed to respond to. So we quickly, thanks for staff helping me out, because I'm not that tech savvy when it comes to internet and building websites. We fixed it, opened it up for another 10 days. It's very imperative that the public open it, look at it, read it, violent criticisms, likes, dislikes. It is a public, open comment period. Please respond. There's nothing we don't want to hear. This is for the city of Palmer. Additionally, I would like to invite the council to please read it, comment it. You can send those comments directly to me if that's allowed. Or you can respond to the point of contact with RESPEC. Once again, that is on the Palmer website. You can go directly to the homepage of the community development. It is there. It is big, open, bold now. You can read exactly where it needs to go. I think that was it. But I appreciate it. Thank you for everything you guys do. I really appreciate you bringing that to the public. So thank you. Appreciate it.
How's that knee doing?
Michelle Kincaid. I did read part of the study. I didn't read it all, but since you asked, I did want to respond a little bit. There's a lot of good stuff in the study about walkability, trails, bikes and trails, but there's a lot of really bad information on parking. It seems like they missed a whole lot on the due diligence. They spent a whole lot of time doing a map about who puts up, this is my parking, private parking, and you can't park here. And a whole lot of talk about shared parking, but from a business aspect, you can't take on the liability of somebody else's business, like their patrons on your property. If they slip and fall, becomes your responsibility. It limits what you might have for dreams and hopes of your future plans. They seemed like to business shame. One of my suggestions to them was the businesses could really use some help with the sidewalk snow. The businesses in Palmer collect all the sales tax, and I thought it sure would be nice. You guys do a lot, but a business doesn't feel like, what do they get that might independently help them? Well, some help with the sidewalk and the snow would, but their suggestion was to be able to ticket us for not doing our sidewalk, or do some type of penalty. A bad idea for parking meters. We don't want to be the laughing stock of the Alaska. Not only would it parking meters, but then you're going to have enforce it. They talked about little quick stops in front of a business. Well, what if that business changes? How do you change that? It's a 15-minute spot when the next tenant is a dentist and they have an hour-and-a-half procedure. The examples they use about that town in Idaho, Google it. You're going to see lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit on what they did to their parking. You're going to see that they spent more than $10 million to try to rectify something. And you're going to see how the people that live in the community, which there is houses in the Central Business District, hated it. Who wants a parking permit on their car to park in front of their own house? They just missed the ballpark on the parking, but they came up with some other nice ideas. But Cedar was already happening, and I'm really glad you guys are doing that. But they just missed it. And the reason parking, if you don't think it's a problem, it's because we do have some codes. Now, some of the codes aren't quite accurate, but we have codes, and everybody's lived by it. And we also have means to get around the codes, like the waiver permit. Anybody can apply for it. So we already have all that stuff in the mix. But I will definitely go through it, and now that they've extended the time, do some feedback. Thank you very much.
Lori Kopenberg, because we have so many new council members on this board, you didn't hear a lot of my conversations and comments over the last several, probably since 2017, about parking in the city of Palmer. That's when I started paying attention to what planning and zoning was doing, because they started expanding the Central Business District into residential areas. That's called commercial creep. If you want to see the downtown Palmer die and just become a business center, that continuation of the Central Business Center takes residential property, typically makes it into limited general or limited commercial property, and then the next step is commercial general. You start losing housing, you start losing residents, we start losing our town. I'm going to reach out to you guys and share the things that I've shared. I gave it to Colby when she came on, and everything I shared with her were the comments I made to this council about what that waste of $50,000 would do if this council really had no intention of following through on parking permits, meters, all of the things, then really they should not have spent that $50,000. And we talked about risk allocation of shared parking, and that's already in code. But what it requires the property owner to put that business on their deed so it follows that business. Those are big things. I have some things on here on risk allocation and leases with shared parking. It's huge. No private property owner is going to subject themselves to lawsuits based on somebody else's financial gain. So anyway, I have lots of information. I've been studying it for a very long time, almost 10 years. And I worked for attorneys, I worked for judges, and I am not ignorant to how to read a statute or read law. Thank you.
Anyone else for audience participation? Seeing no one, I'll close it, bring it back to the council. Moving through item N to item O, council member comments. We'll start with Councilwoman Carrington.
I just want to thank everybody that comes out and speaks to us. It really does make a difference. I did get to go to Dead Horse Donuts for the meeting and the conversations about the upcoming library, and then we followed up. We went to the Friends of the Palmer Library group, and they've got some exciting things that they've got planning for groundbreaking and fundraising and to bring the community into it and bring businesses into it. So I'm excited to see our library get going this next year, and that's all I got.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to say congratulations to all the newly appointed members of our commissions and advisory boards, new chairs and vice chairs. I look forward to working with them in the future, and I wish them much success. And thank you to the Fire and Rescue Department for the invitation to their annual awards, and congratulations to all the award winners. That was quite a night. I think it was... should I say it, or do you want to? You can. And I would like to say congratulations to Officer Cole Graham for being the first recipient of the Chad Cameron Firefighter of the Year Award. And then I'd also like to say it was great listening to audience participation tonight. One of the things that was suggested was the signs, and I would like support to refer that over to Parks and Rec so they can start looking at that and make recommendations.
Thank you. We will do that. Councilwoman Graham, ma'am, are you done, or do you have something else?
I have nothing else.
Thank you. Councilwoman Graham.
I just want to say thank you to everybody who comes out and speaks of these things and emails us and is very active in the community. We see that. We read it, try and respond as often as I can via email. I think with all of that being said, I would like to request council support to draft a letter or the form that we need to do to get a release of obligation for the golf course so we can start those steps while we're waiting on the fair market value and whatever else we need to do to get that completed, because I know it's more complicated than just getting the FMV and being like, hey, can we buy our land back? So I would like to propose that we formally begin that process.
Yeah, I support that. Thank you.
Per code, I would like for us to vote, just because I would like to go back to that process. So I do have, so the motion that I have is to start the process to pursue that letter of release of obligation.
Yes.
And so, let's go, Deputy Mayor Alcantra.
I'm sorry, can I ask any questions
Yes.
prior to the vote? So, I know there's been a lot of discussion about this, but I want questions for our city manager. If you think now is the appropriate time to do that, because it's my understanding that having fair market value would give us then the starting point to do that. And so is now good timing for that? Or should we hold off until we've got more information?
So when we refer to the fair market value, what we're doing is we're looking at the golf course land to get an updated non-aeronautical lease rate. It's not the value of the land. If for a release of obligation, we would have to get a totally separate fair market evaluation by two independent appraisals, and they have to be in a certain time frame. I can't remember what the time frame is, but we'll have to put an RFP on the street for two separate land valuation RFPs. What we're doing right now is just establishing the non-aeronautical rate.
If I could follow up.
Yes.
So what it makes, because I don't know how timing would go exactly both on the application for the release of obligation and for like an RFP for the fair market value for purchase price, so that our timing, we have the fair market value within the time period required. Should we put the RFP out first before starting an application for release of obligation?
My suggestion would be to wait. I'll get reach out to the FAA, get their clearly defined process, and then, because if it's a 6-month evaluation or if it's valid for a year and we start it and there's delays, I want to make sure that the timing is correct so we don't have to spend more money getting 2 more evaluations. So as soon as I know kind of the time frame and what their expectations are, what type of documents that they want from the city of Palmer, then we can start that RFP process.
The way I interpret it is that the motion is to start the process, and I think this is part of the process that we have to, start obviously from, not necessarily day one, but we have to get all this information from FAA, then move forward with an RFP, and then move forward, and see what they have to say. So I think that we're beginning the process, and I think that's part of the whole thing that we're doing. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate that clarification. I'm right there with you, and I just think this process now has been going on for 7 months, and anything that kind of expedites and lets the public know that we're serious about moving forward is worthwhile in doing. And I'm sure these can move on in parallel track, so they can just move on to whatever the process system is, and we can allocate the money as we move forward. Thank you.
Yes, and I would also like the opportunity for the airport director and I to give a presentation on what that actually would look like for the golf course land, because there are object-free areas and the runway protection zones that will still come into play, that fences will have to be moved, and it's not necessarily all 144.75 acres can be released. There will be about 100 acres that possibly could be, but we will have to move the fence to make sure that the object-free areas surrounding the airport are fenced in, because if it no longer becomes airport property, we have to put that security fence up there. But that's something that we can bring to the council and discuss more in depth later.
Councilwoman Mosier.
Has this been put into the budget, and do we have the funding available?
This is not in the budget. No, we did not account for this. So I would be coming for, once I know final numbers or about a ballpark, I would have to come for a budget amendment.
Yes, ma'am.
This is kind of related. So there's been discussion about having kind of a workshop with the FAA representatives to be able to get information and get a better understanding of the process. Is that something that we could do either before or as we're pursuing this?
I can certainly ask for their participation and their availability. Generally, I think that they're pretty open to helping the cities with this type of process, but I just don't know their schedule or what they are allowed to do.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Madam Clerk.
Deputy Mayor Alcantra.
Yes.
Councilmember Carrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Collins,
Yes.
Councilmember Mosher,
Yes.
and Mayor Cooper.
Yes,
It's approved and unanimous.
thank you. Do you have any other comments, ma'am?
No, I just wanted to share my appreciation for you and the city clerk, and I'm sure the fire chief and Chaplain Rao for putting together that proclamation for Chad. I know that it means a lot to his family and it means a lot to the fire department.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, you're up.
All right. Well, I had a couple thoughts written down here, but they've kind of been covered by other folks, so I won't rehash everything there. I guess I did just want to mention I've also been concerned with some of the federal enforcement efforts being made elsewhere in the country, and I just want to let people know, I guess that's on my radar as well, and hope that we don't see similar types of things happening in our community. On the release of obligation, that is something I'm really interested, excuse me, a process I'm interested in beginning and seeing how things go. I think we need a lot more information, and some things we're going to need to make decisions on, of course. But I'm fully in support of seeing where it goes, seeing where we get with that. So, and then I guess just again on the parking, I'm really interested in our downtown area. I love our downtown area. And I think it's kind of one of a kind, certainly in Alaska, and a dying type of community nationwide. And so I really am interested in local businesses' input on, parking, but the other issues as well. And I know I listened, this was before I was on the city council, but when the removing any parking restrictions or requirements was first proposed, and I listened to a lot of the comments then and understood that communities that are currently downtown were very opposed to that. But I am, like I said previously, am interested though in if there are improvements that you think can be made, what those are. So like I said, I'd be interested in hearing those. I know we don't always get the opportunity to hear them here because limited time and whatnot, but I think we all do read letters that are sent and emails and things like that. So appreciate all of you, and thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start from that part about what's going on, not just in Minneapolis, but in our nation's capital and other places around the U.S. It's always humbling because let's face it, my last name's Alcantara, yo hablo español, but I'm a 6'3", 250-pound white guy. It's like not gonna get the same issues and problems that my wife and my 4 children, who are people of color, get. And it's easy for me to have empathy, but to also go, are you serious? Are you kidding me? My wife came home from Washington, D.C., where, of course, there's National Guard and people in the metro stops, and, it doesn't look like the America that she's used to. And she spent a lot of time in D.C., went to American University and other things. But also she has a conference to go to in Minneapolis in March, and she came home and asked me, should I cancel the trip? And I was like, wow, Rosetta Alcantara, a person of color, can't be comfortable going to Minneapolis, one of our major cities in the United States. I was just like, he would take a cold glass of water and splash me in the face with it. So I don't think she's made a decision yet, but just to know that people have to make those decisions is shocking in our country. So yeah, I don't know what to tell her, but I'll say that people are talking about this in Palmer, Alaska. And it's not just a South Minneapolis problem. The parking thing, I'm glad we did what we did tonight. I think it's difficult sometimes when people get to a certain age, and hopefully I'll get there someday. And there's not enough handicap spots, or when they're needed, they're needed. Whether you're going to something, funeral at a church, whether you're going to an event at the Palmer Depot, whether you're coming here, you hope that nobody is hogging those few handicap spots. no matter how tempted you may get at the airport when you're driving by 6 empty ones and thinking, oh, there's nowhere to park at the Anchorage airport. But I do think people just have to walk a little bit, and people have to do what they do, and I just haven't ever felt like this was a huge problem, to be quite frank. The presentation for Chief Cameron tonight, thank you, Councilmember Graham. Very difficult thing to have to do, and you could feel the sadness in the room, and I did feel for his family, and you know, the flashbacks that it brings years later. And I lost my father before I turned 2 years old, so sort of like Mrs. Zirkle's daughter, I never really knew who he was. But it doesn't matter if you know who the person is or isn't, you're gonna know their legacy and their history for the rest of your lives. And I mean, even as recently as 6 years ago, I became a member of the Sons of American Legion. I didn't know such a thing even existed. I went to try to find somebody, and they said, oh, she's out at American Legion now. And I said, she's on American Legion. Oh, too bad I can't go there. I never served our country, one of my many shortcomings. They went, wait, what are you talking about? Your father's got an army named after him. It's called Sons of American Legion. You basically grab onto the coattails of your father or your, you know, or your mother, and then you become a member. And so now I've been a member for 6 years, a great organization doing a lot of good work, and it's great. But, you know, my circle daughter lost her dad at 7 months old. That's extremely sad. And I hope that people out there, whether they come here to testify in person or on Facebook, when people sit up here, somewhat free game and heavy as the head that wears the crown, and I've mentioned many times, you pay somebody very well, but not to get abused by folks, and certainly not for their family to get abused. So I hope people take a little time and show a little respect in class, and don't do those kind of things that an 11-year-old daughter may have to deal with now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. Hopefully she'll never have to deal with having to look and find something on, you know, Facebook or Google saying terrible things about a fictitious uncle or about her father, more importantly. So I hope people do the right thing. If you have questions for council members or city manager, come here and do the audience participation like many of you did tonight, or call up City Hall. Say, I need to speak to the city manager. She's very accessible. She has been to me when I've called her. So, I mean, if you have questions to ask and want the truth, come ask the questions and find the truth. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda, thank you tonight. I really appreciate that. I'm sure, I know that the family did as well. We made a couple of good decisions tonight at the council. And I want to thank the council for doing that. You know, we're moving in the right direction. Got a long ways to go, but we're still doing well. And my body is telling me to quit talking. So with that, we're adjourned.